Mama Nkechi, whose real name was Chinyere Okocha, was that woman who held Umioma's heart on her palm. Every day, early in the morning, she would wrap her faded wrapper around her, fire up her grill, and roast corn such that its smokiness became a part of the neighborhood identity. As the sun climbed slowly into the sky, tin roofs became covered in gold. Children passed through the premises in their ragged uniforms while vendors were calling out for morning sales. Dust from the streets rose up in elegant little swirls. But today was different for Mama Nkechi. Beneath her steady appearance lay a hidden euphoria. She would visit her daughter Nkechi's school today, a day that she had eyed for the past week. The thought of Nkechi always put a smile on the old woman's face. Her daughter was tall and full of life. She was her mother's joy. Since the day she had become a widow, Mama Nkechi spent everything for Nkechi's future. Every cob of corn she sold went to fund the schooling of her daughter at St. Margaret's College, a school for the rich. But the girl's sharp mind brought her a scholarship, of which she deserved due consideration. Chinyere, what has made you smile so early today? This teasing voice of Uncle Ebuka brought her back from her reverie. He was quite nosy, but he had good intentions. Ah, Ebuka. It's nothing serious, waved she a big smile now. I'm going to surprise Nkechi at school today. It's been ages since I talked to her teachers, and I made some nkwobi to take along. Ebuka winked. Will she be happy to see you without a notice? These kids these days. Mama Nkechi waved him off. Why wouldn't she? She is my daughter. I just want to ensure that she is doing okay in school. I've worked very hard to keep her there. Ebuka laughed but didn't seem convinced. He didn't push the argument any further. By late morning, Mama Nkechi was packing the nkwobi into a colorful scarf. Her faded garments bore the stains of her labor, but with pride coursing through her heart, she walked through the busy streets to the college. At the point where she got to the tall gate of St. Margaret's, she stood still for a moment. The gate appeared so imposing compared to her simple life. But Nkechi was her impetus. Inside, the secretary at the reception desk regarded her with suspicion. Madam, do you have an appointment? No, but I am the mother of Nkechi Okocha. I came to see her and perhaps speak to her teachers. Mama Nkechi replied firmly but kindly. Please wait here. I'll call her, said the secretary after a moment's pause. Mama Nkechi sat on a wooden bench and looked about her. Students in pristine uniforms walked past with the click of shining shoes against the floor. Once again, her heart swelled with pride. This is the deserving place for Nkechi. Nkechi appeared, her face tight with surprise, and was that annoyance? Nkechi was a picture of a well-dressed student in a neat uniform, cornrows well ornamented. But panic was written all over her moving eyes, which were glued towards her fellow classmates. Mama, what are you doing here? Nkechi said sharply, giving a quick glance towards a bunch of students close by, who were giggling and whispering. Mama Nkechi's smile dropped but stayed. I wanted to surprise you, my daughter. I brought nkwobi for you and your friends and thought to say hi to your teachers. Mama, you should have told me first. Nkechi's voice exploded out for the first time. Somehow, she hung her head. Look, Mama. Everyone's staring at us now. Why won't I? I am your mother. I have to check up on you. Mama Nkechi cropped her head in confusion. But, Mama, Nkechi's voice went up a pitch. Look at you. You didn't even dress properly. Would waiting for the next parent-teacher meeting really be such a big deal? That hit like a slap. Mama Nkechi froze and held onto the bowl of nkwobi. The nearby students laughed while Nkechi's face blushed bright red. She slid, almost in a whisper, Please, Mama, just go. I'll talk to you at home. Mama Nkechi's heart broke. After everything she'd been through, long nights of work, ridicule from the neighbors, it was all for Nkechi. And now, her daughter, her pride, was ashamed of her. Tears filled her eyes, but she held them back. I see, Mama Nkechi said softly. Her voice shook slightly. I'll go. But remember this, Nkechi, everything I have ever done or shall do is for you. You will understand someday. She turned and left, clutching the Nkwobi tightly. Nkechi stood there, battling guilt and relief within her. Her classmates came to tease her. "Is that your mum?" one asked, a sarcasm-laced smirk piercing her face. "She seems interesting." "Yeah," Nkechi laughed nervously. "She's just really strict." But deep down, she knew she'd done something wrong. At home, Mama Nkechi sat on her stool, glaring at the dreadful Nkwobi. The laughter from Nkechi's classmates echoed repeatedly in her tired mind. All along, she believed her love and sacrifices would be enough. Now she was no longer sure. The days that followed the painful visit of Mama Nkechi to St. Margaret's College were tension-ridden, filled with flat silences. In the house, the warmth with which Nkechi had, after this visit, drawn close to Mama had broken down into more silences. One evening, Mama Nkechi sat on a wooden stool in front of their small house. Beside her, the kerosene lamp flickered. The business had been truly slow, and she was tired from standing in the sun all day long. But more than her aching body, it was the pain within her heart that hurt. She sighed, tightening her wrapper around her, as the cool evening breeze trailed through. Uncle Abuka passed by, as he always did. "Chinye, you seem to have been too quiet lately," he observed as he took a seat on a bench. "I'm just tired, Abuka," she replied flatly. "Don't tell me it has something to do with Nkechi. I heard what happened at school." Mama Nkechi froze. "What did you hear?" "That she was upset with you and that she scolded you in front of her classmates." Tears welled in Mama Nkechi's eyes, but she quickly brushed them away. "I only wanted her to know how proud I am of her. Instead, I embarrassed her." Abuka nodded. "Children forget the sacrifices their parents make for them. It is our duty to remind them. Don't give up on her. She will soon come around." Nkechi was doing well in school but was emotionally distanced. Her closest friend was Teo, the daughter of a big oil businessman. Teo had everything that Nkechi appreciated: money, confidence, and most of all, freedom from all the troubles back at home. One lunch hour, Teo leaned over. "You've been awfully quiet for quite some time now. What's up with you?" "Nothing. Only school," said Nkechi, forcing a smile. Teo smirked. "Is it about your mom?" "Oh, that was pretty odd." Nkechi felt her color rise. "She can be a bit crazy sometimes. I told her never to show up unannounced." "Well, don't let your mom embarrass you like that again. My parents know better. They would never do that to me," commented Teo, tossing her braids over her shoulder. Nkechi nodded. However, Teo's words stung. It echoed her own thoughts, which made it all the worse. At home, Mama Nkechi tried to bridge the gulf. One Saturday, she prepared yam porridge the way Nkechi liked it. "Come and eat," she called, placing the steaming bowl on the table. "I'm not hungry," Nkechi answered coolly from her room. Mama Nkechi walked to the doorway. "Listen, my daughter, come here. We must talk." "There is nothing to say," Nkechi said without looking up from her book. "But there is." Mama Nkechi insisted, her voice shaking. "You have avoided me since that day at your school. What did I do?" Nkechi looked up, staring at her now. Her eyes were blazing. "You don't understand, Mama, you can't just barge in like that. People are watching, and I have to protect my image." "Your image?" Mama Nkechi's voice rose once more. "What image is worth more than your mother, the one who has worked and sacrificed for you?" "That's not an issue of sacrifice, Mama. It's respect. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to stay at that school? Everyone else is rich, and I'm it, the girl whose mom sells roasted corn." Mama Nkechi's heart broke. "Is that how you see me? As an embarrassment?" "I didn't say that," said Nkechi, barely above a whisper. "You didn't have to," Mama Nkechi said quietly and walked away. It grew colder between them. Nkechi spent time with Teo and her friends, while Mama Nkechi buried herself in work to lighten her sorrow. When the school announced a cultural day celebration, Nkechi felt insecure. Students were to present something from their heritage, whilst lavish costumes and expensive representation would be all others would bring. She had little to offer. "Are you participating?" Teo asked. "I don't know," Nkechi said. "I have little to show. Just wear something plain and wing it. No one will even notice," Teo said with a chuckle. Her nerves were fraying the closer the day got. She did not want to disappoint her mother but wasn't sure how to make her proud. All the other students filled the auditorium in their traditional garb. Nkechi waited next to the stage and would simply tell a story about her village, she thought, which would be good enough to present. When it was her turn, she stepped onto the stage, her voice trembling. "My name is Nkechi Okocha, and I am here to talk about my village, Umuoma." It was all in vain, and the audience began to murmur. Then they heard a voice from the gathering. "Tell them about your grandmother's stories, Nkechi." She froze. Mama Nkechi stood beside the back row, pride radiating from her. Something within Nkechi shifted. She began anew, this time filled with passion. "In my village, my grandmother told us stories about the tortoise and the hare," she went on, her voice firm. The audience fell silent, hanging on her every word. As she completed her presentation and the last sentence, thunderous applause filled the auditorium, and suddenly, all her classmates were looking at her with respect. "Mama," she greeted, sobbing outside the auditorium where she found her mother waiting. "I'm sorry. I was wrong to have felt ashamed. You are the reason that I am what I am." Mama Nkechi grasped Nkechi in an embrace. "All I prayed for is for you to not be ashamed to be who you are. Just never forget." Right then and there, their distance began to vanish. Nkechi became aware that her mother's love and sacrifices had been her strengths. She promised she would never again allow pride or insecurity to come between them. St. Margaret's Cultural Day left Nkechi feeling uneasy. Her mother's support had prepared her to face whatever embarrassment might come her way and won her the respect of others, but all the same didn't relieve her from the rectitude she felt within herself. Nkechi reflected on how much she had hurt her mom. Those cheers from her classmates and teachers never really meant a thing compared with the disappointment she read in Mama Nkechi's eyes. Questions began to surface about her mother, her school, and herself for the first time. One Saturday morning, Nkechi sat on the porch with her school books on her lap but quite untouched. The aroma of roasted corn wafted from the backyard. She began to watch her mama thoroughly prepare the grill, setting up the charcoal and fanning the flames, tending to the fire in a calm, steady manner. Tears brimmed as Nkechi pondered how much her mother had endured just to give Nkechi a better life. "I just wonder how many days Mama Nkechi worked in the sun, putting Nkechi's needs before her own. How many times could she swallow her pride?" The image of her mother's face after the school incident burdened Nkechi's conscience. She could never forget the hurt in her eyes. Taking in a long breath, she closed her book and rose. The time had come. "Mama." She walked out to the backyard. Mama Nkechi lifted her eyes, surprised. "Nkechi, you're awake very early. Do you want to eat?" "No, Mama. I want to talk," Nkechi said. A little pause here. Then, about everything. Mama Nkechi wiped her hands on her wrapper and motioned for Nkechi to sit on the bench. "I am listening." "Mama, I am wrong," she began a little shakily. "In my mind, I thought I had reasons to feel ashamed of you. It was so important then to impress the others that I ended up hurting you." Mama Nkechi's expression softened, but she was silent. "I mean, I have tried so hard to gain acceptance that I forgot who I really am. You have undone so much for me, and only to treat you as if you were not good enough.